Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars fans all across the galaxy, very, very, very far away. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you want to know how you know something is going to be bad? You want to know how you know that a company knows that something is going to be bad? When they front load something with counters to criticisms that they haven't even really received yet, because guess what? The show's not here yet. And if you honestly want to be critical of the trailers and stuff like that, you absolutely can be. You can be critical of the casting. You can be critical of some of the ridiculous things we've seen out there so far, but you can't be critical of the show just as of yet because you haven't quite seen it yet. But as we've seen so many times in the past, whether it be the Marvels, whether it be Secret Invasion, whether it be so many of these other absolute abysmal failures that Disney has done, or Kenobi was probably the most recent example where they made up a bunch of nonsense that equated to basically nothing less than literally 1% of 1% of the majority of the biggest people in our corner of the internet get on a daily basis. Shout out to our dear sweet friend Eric July. It's literally one of them situations where we've seen this kind of stuff happen time and time again. So what do we know from this? What can we learn from the history that they're repeating over and over again? Because as always, boys and girls, if you don't learn your history, you're destined to repeat it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they're repeating the exact same mistakes that they've made in the past. They go out there, they front load with a bunch of nonsense saying that, well, it's all these sexist, misogynist, racist, bigots that don't want to watch our show. It's all their fault that this show is going to get roasted in the ratings. It's all their fault that this show is not going to be watched by all of these people out there. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, even some of the biggest YouTubers in our corner have what, 1, 2, 3 million subscribers? Do you really think that they have so much power and influence over all of Western culture, over all of Western civilization, over the entire globe, that their opinions can actually drastically affect a show's doings? Well, yes, they can. That's why critic reviews used to mean something. That's why mainstream legacy critic reviews don't mean anything anymore. And everybody goes to YouTube or whatever their favorite streaming and or video platform service, shout out the Rumble, is to go out there and watch those kind of videos and find reviews from people they absolutely trust. Well, boys and girls, Disney, the Walt Disney Company, knows that they have a bomb on their hands. They know this is going to be a disastrous dumpster fire. It's going to fail miserably. And we will be here to document all of that going forward as this show does premiere very, very shortly here next month. Well, this is what they're coming out there and saying already. So, boys and girls, what should we expect from the show? It's going to be a disastrous dumpster fire, and that's why they're front loading it already. But what have they been saying? Well, ladies and gentlemen, according to this headline over here from Bounty and Comics, Lucasfilm boss Kathleen Kennedy, the Sith Lady Lord herself, defends the Acolyte, says Star Wars female cast and crew face unfair criticism because of the fans base being so male dominated. And of course, this has already been reported as Variety says that a lot of women in Star Wars struggle with fan attacks because the fan base is being so male dominated. So I have a little story to tell you about an actually recently deleted tweet from one of our own Force of Light Entertainment, talking about her experiences as female Star Wars fans that I'll briefly give you guys a little overview for later. But let's check out this article from Bounty and Comics, get into the truth of all it, because we don't want to have to deal through all the dribble of the Variety article as well. And shout out to Spencer for doing such a good job putting all of this together. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, make sure you hit that, smash that like button, subscribe or follow if you have not already, and leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you think about this and how bad you predict the ratings for the Acolyte will actually end up being. Do you think it will even chart? Let me know what you think about all that down below. According to Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy, the backlash to the Acolyte's existence is not a result of Star Wars fans' current exhaustion with the franchise's production-level focus on identity politics, but rather the misogynic attitudes of its primarily male fan base. I know, we're such misogynists. We're so misogynistic. It's so horrible. It's not like we have an issue with the fact that you completely and totally destroy all of our favorite male characters and try to replace them with females that are better, stronger, and faster than them at absolutely everything, even though they have literally no reason to be whatsoever, and you give them no valid justification for that. Yeah, I'm sure it has nothing to do with watching one of our most beloved characters of all time, Obi-Wan Kenobi, getting played second fiddle to a tiny little child, and of course, the hero of the story ended up, of course, being the POC female, which is something that we've seen once and once again, of course, completely and totally negating all of the historical lore established by George Lucas. But hey, it's Kathleen Kennedy's world now, boys and girls. Lore doesn't matter. Kennedy offered this defense of the Leslie Headland Helm series greenlighting while speaking to the New York Times' Brooke Barnes in promotion of its upcoming premiere. Asked by Barnes if she had any thoughts on the widespread despair felt by fans that The Acolyte would be yet another message-first, entertainment-second project from the House of Mouse, the Disney exec exerted, "My belief is that storytelling does need to be representative of all people. That's an easy decision for me." The answer to that question is a yes. She could have just said yes, that she is going to put messaging over storytelling. Operating within these giant franchises now, with social media and the level of expectation, it's terrifying. Oh, so you're admitting you're not up to the task. Then quit. Pushing back against the series' pre-release critics, I think showrunner Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former assistant, mind you, has struggled a little bit with it. I think a lot of the women who step into Star Wars struggle with this a bit more because the fan base is being so male dominated. Sometimes they sometimes get attacked in ways that could be quite personal. Like what, Kathleen Kennedy? You got any screenshots? You got any evidence to back any of this up? Or are you just talking out of your ass like you normally are? Because I think this is probably a good time. Force of Lightning actually responded to this account from Kathleen Kennedy talking about how she herself, growing up being a Star Wars fan, was always very welcome because of the fact that they were like, "Oh, cool, a girl's into this." Yeah, guess what? Contrary to Hollywood's popular belief and what they'd like to force onto every single one of us, dudes like chicks. And we get even more excited when those chicks are into the stuff that we're into. Color us shocked there. But once again, because Kathleen Kennedy understands nothing about how fandom works, specifically about how Star Wars fandom works, she has no idea about this. So she speaks from her ivory tower up there. She looks down on all of you peasants. She looks down on all of you serfs and thinks that she knows better than you. She's more elevated than you. She knows better, and she will teach you, and she will chastise you for being naughty boys and girls who want to be just a bunch of misogynists. And trust me, ladies, she's talking about you too. Weighing on the topic herself, Headland separately opined to Barnes, "As a fan myself," actually, let's do that a little bit different. "As a fan myself," because that's just what she sounds like. I've never heard the woman speak, but that's just what she looks like she'd sound like to me. "I know how frustrating some Star Wars storytelling in the past has been. I felt it myself." Really? Where are your videos? Where are your opinions? Where are your recounts of how much you hated the Disney sequel trilogy? Where are those? Harvey Weinstein's former assistant. In a text message sent to the reporter following the conclusion of their interview, the showrunner added, I stand by my empathy for Star Wars fans, but I want to be clear. Anyone who engages in bigotry, racism, or hate speech, I don't consider a fan." Oh, that's right. And what do they account as bigotry, racism, or hate speech? Criticizing race-swapping characters, criticizing adding POCs just for the sake of adding POCs, making them one-dimensional characters and Mary Sue's all the way to the nines. How about that lightsaber to the gut, Reva? Which, last I checked, Qui-Gon Jinn, a way more powerful Jedi than anything we've seen in the disgusting abomination that is Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy's Disney Star Wars, completely and totally ended his life. But somehow now in Kathleen Kennedy's magical new Disney Star Wars, a lightsaber to the gut is nothing. But for criticisms like that, she will no longer consider you a fan because that's what they think is bigotry. That's what they think is hate speech, boys and girls. If you're critical of any of that, simply because of the fact that it's a woman and a POC on top of that, boys and girls, don't you know? You can't criticize a POC. That's racism. Don't you do that, you naughty little Star Wars not fans anymore. Because I'm Leslie Headland, and I was too ugly to have Harvey Weinstein ever try anything with me. But by God, I'll tell you how you should be a Star Wars fan. Leslie Headland should be in prison. The Acolyte will feature some amount of unwarranted political commentary, was previously confirmed by Headland herself, expounding on her approach to the series narrative during 2021 interview. I mean, it's funny because a lot of the... Right, hold on, I got the voice wrong. I mean, it's funny because a lot of the feedback that I'll get, and I use the term feedback very lightly, but when I do go on social media, the feedback is, don't make Star Wars political. I'm like, George Lucas made it political. Those are political films. Once again, this is a stupid argument that has been destroyed and devastated and deconstructed a million times. Simply because you have a war going on, just because there are governments involved, don't mean things are quote unquote political. What we mean, which once again, Leslie Headland, former assistant to Harvey Weinstein, doesn't understand is the fandom. When we say don't make it political, we mean don't shove your bullshit modern day identity politics down our throats or up our ass. That's what we mean by it, Leslie Headland. Maybe you don't understand that because you don't understand Star Wars, you don't understand the fandom, and you never have and you never will. The only thing you understand, just like the majority of people in Hollywood, and Kathleen Kennedy, we're talking about you too as well, is to take a beloved IP, a beloved franchise, believe that all of their fans are complete and total fucking morons, treat them like such, believe that they are just cattle, believe that they are just pigs that will show up at the trough to eat up whatever slop you throw in there because you thought we were that stupid. You thought we were too dumb to understand good quality storytelling, to understand a hero's journey, and understand all of these things that made our beloved Star Wars such a fan favorite and such a resounding, timeless, intergenerational classic. But you never wanted to understand that. The only thing you saw was a shiny IP that had a huge built-in fan base that you could get your hands on to push your bullshit agenda. I have no idea if Kathleen Kennedy secretly hates George Lucas or secretly hates Steven Spielberg. I know the background of Leslie Headland because we all do. We know what her agenda is. She speaks it clearly out there. But either way, people like them and throughout all of Hollywood have been responsible for the destruction of all your beloved IPs. And they did it for one reason and one reason only. They did it for their agenda. They thought that all of you millions, and sometimes in some cases hundreds of millions, and who knows, maybe even billions of fans out there, galaxy-wide, they knew that you would come in and watch. You would at least give them a chance. They probably thought you were dumb enough to stick around forever because you're just a bunch of dumb nerds and geeks after all. And they're their Ivy League elites. They're your betters, boys and girls. They know better than you. They'll teach you the proper ways. Well, how's that worked out for them? They thought we were stupid. They thought we were morons. They thought they could brainwash us into taking up their bullshit. And we haven't. The Acolyte will fail, just like every other Disney Star Wars project has arguably failed, one way or the other. And everything in the modern era is falling apart and going down in flames. They've already told us that it will be agenda over storytelling. Kathleen Kennedy just admitted to that. Leslie Headland, former assistant to Harvey Weinstein, flat out confirmed that over a year ago. And now they're doing everything they can to preload excuses for any kind of legitimate criticism that this show will get. And trust me, there will be plenty. Disney Star Wars is dead. Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, and now Leslie Headland are all responsible for that. The Acolyte will fail, and it will be more egg on the face of Disney Star Wars, Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, and Leslie Headland. And boys and girls, I can't wait to see it.